Right. So today, we're really going deep, diving into the world of drug development.
That's right. And specifically, we're going to be looking at this really interesting new approach,
Yeah.
phase zero trials.
Phase zero clinical trials. And, we've all heard of
Right.
phase one, phase two, phase three trials, but
Mhm.
this phase zero thing, it's kind of a new
Yeah, it's a newer concept.
concept, right?
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to try and break it all down for you using some excerpts that we've pulled from this text that we've been using as source material called pasted text.
Right.
So let's just jump right into it.
Okay.
What exactly are these phase zero trials?
Well, I think the easiest way to think of them is sort of like a trial before the trial.
Oh, I like that.
Right. Kind of a sneak peek.
Okay.
A little reconnaissance mission.
Okay.
They're also called exploratory investigational new drug studies sometimes.
Oh, wow. That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Yeah, phase zero is definitely catchier.
It's got a better ring to it.
It does. So where do they fit into the whole drug development timeline then? I mean, we
Yep.
hear about phase one, phase two, phase three.
Yeah.
Is this like a prequel?
Yeah, exactly. It comes before phase one.
Okay.
It gives researchers just a glimpse into how this drug's going to behave in the human body
Got it.
at a very, very early stage.
So this is even before we start thinking about like
Mhm.
safety and dosage and all
That's-
that in a larger group of people.
Exactly. And that's actually what makes these trials so unique is
Okay.
that the participants actually receive what we call subtherapeutic doses of a drug.
Subtherapeutics.
Subtherapeutic, meaning doses so low that they won't actually have a therapeutic effect.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm even more curious about what researchers are actually trying to get out of these trials.
Yeah.
If the doses are so tiny that they don't actually have a therapeutic effect, what's the point?
Well, let's say, for example, that we're developing a new drug for lung cancer.
Okay.
A phase zero trial could show us whether that drug actually reaches the tumor cells deep in the lungs and if it has any effect on certain biomarkers that are associated with the tumor's growth.
Interesting.
So it's really answering these fundamental questions.
Yeah.
Does the drug hit its intended target? How does the body process this drug, absorption, breakdown, elimination? And what effects does the drug have at these different, concentrations?
So it's more about understanding the drug's like journey
Yeah,
through the
that makes
body
sense.
and its early interactions. It's not really
Yeah,
about
it's-
treating the disease at this point.
Right.
Okay. So our source material actually mentioned that the FDA issued some specific guidance
Right.
for these trials back in 2006.
Yeah, 2006.
Why? Why the need for that?
Well, the FDA, I think they recognized both the potential, especially for these newer therapies that are very targeted, but they also, recognize the ethical complexities,
For
right?
sure, yeah.
Because you're giving an experimental drug to
Huh.
people, even though it's a very low dose. Yeah.
So it needs careful oversight.
Yeah.
So they created this framework, and it specified things like, lower manufacturing standards for the drug at this stage.
Okay.
And it required less preclinical toxicology data
Okay.
than later phase trials.
So less stringent, I guess,
Right.
overall.
Less stringent. And importantly, what they really emphasized is the fact that there's no therapeutic intent
Yeah.
in these trials.
So these trials are not designed to directly benefit
Right.
the participants.
Exactly.
Which brings us, I think, to a really big question.
Yeah.
How do we balance the potential benefits of these trials with the risks to the people who are participating,
Right.
especially when there's no direct benefit?
Especially when there's no direct therapeutic benefit. It's a crucial discussion. And, these trials, they often rely on what we call biomarkers.
Correct.
So these are measurable indicators of
Right.
what's going on in the body.
Got it. So participants, they might undergo procedures like biopsies, to track those biomarkers.
Okay.
And then what the researchers do is they use specific tools to really analyze that data. One of the tools they use is called, a decision chart.
A decision chart.
Interesting.
Think of it like a roadmap,
Okay.
Based on that biomarker data, the chart will kind of show whether the drug actually reached the target, how long it stayed active, did it have the intended biological effect that we were hoping for? And this really helps guide the decision.
Okay.
So, green light, move on to phase I, or maybe it's yellow light, pause and reassess.
So it's about making those informed decisions
Exactly.
early on to kind of avoid wasting time and resources on drugs that just, they're probably not going to work.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. And that's, I think, one of the biggest potential benefits
Okay.
here is that, if a drug does show promise in these phase 0 trials, then the researchers can move forward with
Yeah.
more confidence.
Makes sense. So, I mean, that all sounds really great in theory,
Yeah.
right? But are we maybe putting a little too much faith in these early glimpses? I mean, could we be prematurely dismissing
Mm-hmm.
drugs
Right.
that might actually work if they were given a chance
Yeah.
in a larger trial?
It's a valid concern.
Yeah.
And I think because it is still a relatively new concept, there's definitely a learning curve here.
Right.
Not a lot of researchers have jumped on board with these phase 0 trials yet.
Sure.
Plus, there's that upfront investment that's needed to develop those very specialized lab tests, what we call assays,
Okay.
to measure those biomarkers.
So what's the future look like?
Right.
Are these phase 0 trials going to become like the standard
Right.
in drug development?
It's hard to say for sure, but they definitely offer a way to make drug development more efficient.
Right.
But more research is needed for sure to really solidify their place in the process. It's an evolving area with a lot of potential.
Yeah, that's really interesting. This has been a fascinating deep dive
Yeah,
into a very, very complex and evolving area of drug development.
it is.
I mean, I think what we've really learned here is that these phase 0 trials, they offer a very unique glimpse
Yeah,
into how a drug might work in humans
right.
at a very early stage.
Yeah,
And I mean, while there are challenges, we can't deny
right.
the potential to streamline the drug development process
Exactly.
and maybe bring these promising new treatments to patients faster.
I think you hit the nail on the head. These early trials could be real game changers.
So for those of you listening out there, take some time to think about this.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the role of phase 0 trials? How do you weigh the potential benefits against the need for further research and just careful consideration of this whole process?
Right.
It really is an intriguing frontier in medicine,
Yeah.
and this conversation is really just beginning. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye-bye.